All right. You rolling on both? Cool. Welcome to the GAF, Mr. Leon Beaton, Teacher Leon Beaton, I should say.
Yeah,
Um, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for making the time out of your day. I know you're a busy man and doing a lot of good work, so happy to have you on.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm always open to gaffing.
Okay. Well, most teachers. Well, here not coming from a teacher. That's important
Yeah.
because, I always thought that some of the best teachers were ones that were willing to have conversations with students, and I think that's the best way of learning. And I'm sure by the end of our talk today, I will have learned a lot from you. How are you doing?
Um. Well, the Rastaman they have a saying: everything is everything. So I'm doing good. Quite good.
Busy year so far.
Yeah, it's very well. The year started off slow, but over the past week or so, very busy. Very busy.
What was reason for the change? How come so busy now?
Well, as you know, CXC is coming up, and so we are kind of wrapping things up, gearing the students, preparing them to sit the exam this year. I want to get in as much as possible before that exam, because where I work, we are responsible for monitoring all the teachers and everything as it relates to mathematics. So the closer the exam, the busier we become.
Leon, I want to start by asking you, you know, you are a math teacher, and you primarily the reason I invited you on to the podcast is because you make these wonderful videos online, very candidly explaining math concepts to Guyanese students, and by students I mean people of all ages. What particularly got my attention was that there were a few videos that you made that were very important for the general population to understand. One of them was being it was part of a pop culture issue at courts relating to hire purchase.
Yeah.
And I'll just recap the story. Someone, and correct me if I gotta get it wrong. A woman went into courts to buy an iPhone 15, which cost X amount.
Yeah.
She bought it on hire purchase, so therefore it cost X plus Y amount, and she was confused as to why she's paying X plus Y and not just X.
Yeah.
So you made a video explaining the concept behind hire purchase and why that iPhone would have cost more than double had she just bought it right away.
Yeah.
And but instead she had to pay way more over the course of 3 years. And I found that fascinating that there's so many, because the original post that was sort of having a job at courts got a lot of people
Yeah.
in a rage. And it just sort of really reflected, or not reflected, but reinforced to me how much of a math problem we have
Yeah.
within our society.
Yeah, the thing that I enjoy doing as a math teacher is linking mathematics to everyday life. Because a common question that students would ask me is, "Sir, when would I use this in real life?" And that incident with courts, and I use that as an example in my class, show them that maths is something that is applicable in everyday life. Because that same scenario, I was random scrolling through Facebook, and I read the thing with courts, and I would normally scroll past, but then I decided to read the comments, and I saw so many persons saying, yes, of course, they like to rob people. They're always robbing people. And I decided to do the little calculation, and, it wasn't the robbery. It's just simple mathematics. And it's something that we learn in secondary school. And, that reinforced, as you said, the problem that we have in this country as it relates to mathematics. And that the pass rate alone every year would show you. But yeah, I enjoy teaching persons concepts in mathematics, and I enjoy not only teaching but having a little humor inside the videos, just to get people attention. And because you don't want to, especially maths, people don't like to sit and look at maths for more than probably 30 seconds. So in between, I look at something that would get persons attention, add some humor, and get the topics over, get the concepts over. And that is something I enjoy doing. And I use that scenario with courts because I know that that is something that many persons probably don't know. They just know that, oh, you buy something at higher purchase, they go rob you. They don't know how the robbery happened. Not a robbery, how the math is actually done. And things like that is what I find joy teaching persons and so on.
Yeah, that definitely. And well, it's so appealing to me because of how, like you said, how you do it. You do it with a little bit of humor. The background music you choose is perfect with your voice. So it's very it's a very soothing video to watch. Um, you know, I kind of, you said that we do have a maths problem. And before we get into all of that and the sort of where we are within our educational system, could you just sort of give me a background of, you know, what was your relationship with math growing up? And then how did you end up in teaching? Because, I always find that this whole teachers really have a big, like they have a mountain of a job in front of them.
Yeah.
Um, and, it's, it's very rewarding to be able to change the lives of students, but sometimes it's not always financially rewarding.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in the teaching space?
All right. So the thing is, I always wanted to be a teacher ever since I entered secondary school. About from Form 3, I would say grade 9. I always wanted to be a teacher because of some of the good male teachers that I had at my school. But the thing is, I never wanted to be a math teacher because I shared this story once on Facebook in grade 11, no, in grade 10. I think in the last term, going into fifth form, I collected my report card at the end of the term. And surprisingly, many persons would find this story very surprising. My math grade at the end of that term, I scored 28 out of 100% in maths. Fourth form student going in fifth form to write the exam the following year. And it wasn't because I was bad at maths, because I was never bad at math, but it's just that some persons would say the teaching method that the teacher used, it wasn't good for persons who are not slow, but they're not really interested in learning in the class because of, the teacher come to the class, all right, students learn to exercise this, work from number 1 to 10, and that's it. And as a teenage student, that wasn't something that would interest me. I mean, I would still do the work, but I gained 28 out of 100, and I was worried because in my mind, from growing up, my mother and father would always say, without education, you wouldn't be anything. So I always wanted to become somebody. I always wanted to finish school and pass all my subjects. So that 28 out of 100, I went over to fifth form, and I didn't allow that to bring me down. One night I just stayed up, and I decided, hey Ram, I will give this math a try. Just make an effort. That is how I will do. Make an effort. And I opened the textbook, and and everything started to connect. And of course, from that 28, I probably moved the next term. I probably moved to like 39, and then to 45, and then on the last lap, as you would say, going up to the exam, then is where I decided to, I will go all in. About 2 weeks before the exam, I decided to go all out with the math, and everything started to make sense. I said to myself, I should have really just paid attention from the beginning because it was so easy. I understood one thing, and one thing led to me understanding something else, and everything just connected. And then I wrote the exam, and as I was writing the exam, I worked number 1. And, number 1 is probably the easiest one, fractions and so on. And I skipped to number 2, and that was easy. Then I skipped to number 3. I said that was easy as well. And then I got to number 4, and that was easy. And the exam was not getting hard. And then I answered all the questions, and I'm still waiting on the hard one. So when my results came out, I received a grade 1, but I never wanted to be a math teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, but not a math teacher. So I applied for CBC that year.
What did you want to teach? Sorry to cut you.
I don't know.
You don't know, okay.
All I know is that I wanted to be a teacher because I always said to myself, I always wanted to stay in school for a very long time. It's either I will be a teacher or fail and repeat.
That's an academic.
So I never wanted to fail. So it was a teacher because I enjoy the school environment. I enjoy being around children, students. I just love it. So I applied at the CBC, but I was too young. But because my grades, my CXC grades were so good, they decided that they could give me a chance.
CPC, Cyril Potter's
Yes,
College.
Aeroport College of Education. And my first choice was industrial technology, that is technical drawing and building technology, because I did well in those subjects. I was in the stream, but I wanted to do something in mathematics as well. I wanted to major in industrial tech and minor in math. But the person who interviewed me said that no, that is not an option. You either major in building technology or nothing at all, because that is such a big field. There no need to do any minor. So I said, okay, I will major in the mathematics and do industrial technology as my minor. But they said, no, you can't. They don't offer that as minor. So I said, okay, I'll do maths and anything else. And that is how I end up being a math teacher, because, that was the only option. And from then I went in the CBC and I fell in love with mathematics because of the great lectures that I had. And here I am today now, a math teacher. I would say a very good math teacher. Persons would say.
Yeah, it certainly seems so. And also how nice that it really catalyzed you based on the lectures you had.
Yeah.
Because a big part of teaching really is the people who bestow the knowledge onto us and how they go about doing that to connect with us,
Yeah.
biggest part of learning, in my opinion. So you got your teacher certificate.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming before you started your online courses, you had spent some time in the school system.
Yeah, I was a teacher since 2016 to in the classroom, the physical classroom, from 2016 to 2023.
What was that like? 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years in the classroom. The thing is, although I'm from out here, the 7 years that I spent, they were spent in the hinterland in Region 1,
Really, which part of Region One?
Port Kaituma.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was very challenging. A lot of challenges, but the classroom itself, the students itself, that was probably the best 7 years that I had as a teacher. Well, I didn't spend anywhere else, but yeah.
So you're from Georgetown, got posted to Port Kaituma.
Well, I'm from Region 3, but I
Oh, okay.
got sent. The thing is, before we go into CPC, we would sign a contract saying that after completing CPC, they can send us any part, any part of Guyana that requires our service. And I was probably one of the unlucky ones to be sent.
Can we talk about that for a little bit, because this is something that I briefly spoke about with another guest that was on the show, and not necessarily exactly like this, but it was just the fact of having our human capital, like the professionals who are coming from, let's say, urban areas. What part of Region 3 were you from?
Tushin.
Tushin, great. So you're relatively urban, just outside of Georgetown. I wouldn't even say that that's even close to rural, but and then you are sent to a region where it's vastly different. You said it was challenging.
Yep.
What, if you don't mind me asking, what were your personal challenges there from having to like go off there? And then the reason I'm asking, because I would like to know moving forward how we will have to post capacity into areas that need it, but how can we make the environment more accommodating? So what were your challenges?
Well, some of my personal challenges, a major one is that I was never alone. I was always a mama's boy.
Okay.
So I never cooked for myself. These are the personal challenges. And I never cooked for myself. I never, probably, fried egg and so on. But in terms of preparing lunch and managing a house and cleaning and so on, I never had that. Well, I was never left to do that alone growing up. And, I was sent to the hinterland, never left Region 3 or 4. And the next region I traveled was to Region 1. And at that time, the region, I was accustomed to having current, for example, 24 hours. And when I went there, the current was, we would get electricity from, I think, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, most times 5 p.m. to 8 a.m., no, to 6 a.m. the next day. So that was just current to carry through the night. But my first week that I touched in Region 1, mind you, I was about 17 years. My first week, I was placed in an apartment, and unfortunately for me, that week the generator had an issue. So I spent 1 week in the dark. Never spent a day in my life alone, but like my first week in a strange place in the interior. I spent it in blackouts at 17 years old. And yeah, and I went there with another teacher, but she had her own thing. So there was afraid, um, you know, and I probably almost died. The thing is, I was so afraid because I was in the blackout, and I locked all the doors, put all the bolts, and then I decided that here something might jump through the windows. I locked all the windows in the apartment, and in the middle of the night, or about probably one in the morning, I woke up, couldn't breathe. So that was because I locked everything, and nothing was coming in. I almost killed myself. But I was so afraid. That was the reason.
What were you scared was gonna jump in, like an animal or something?
No, probably something supernatural. I don't know. The thing is, when you go in these regions, you would hear lots of stories.
People are superstitious in those regions, right?
Yeah. So I was afraid of probably some animals, something supernatural, my own thoughts.
Yeah.
So, and I had no phone. The phone that I had, it only worked with current, with electricity. It had to be plugged in, and the battery back then these fancy phones, the battery would fall out, and it would only work with current. So I had nothing to do, just myself, my thoughts in the dark, and and that was for one entire week, and I would admit I cried.
I'm gonna say something. I think I would have cried too. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, that was my first week in the hinterland. And of the people, the thing is though, the people there, they were very welcoming. Probably if I had shared to them what I was going through, probably some of them would have, offered to probably allow me to stay by them. But because I was a male, and I didn't want anybody to know that I am at home crying every night because I'm in the dark with nothing to do, and that was it. And also some problems as relates to arrangement with the infrastructure, the building, and so on.
Yeah. Well, it was like a teacher's quarters.
Yeah, it was a teacher's quarters, and it was unfurnished, and the bed wasn't up to standard, and so on. My first night I went home from work, dropped my bags, and I'm accustomed to just jumping on my bed. So I did that there, dropped everything, jumped on the bed, and the bed and I fell to the floor, and
No way.
yeah, and
Wow.
that was it for an entire term. I did not have any hammer or nail, so my bed was on the ground. Yeah, and I slept on the ground in the dark for 1 week, and then we got back electricity, I slept on the ground with light and so on for probably one term. Yes, and that was my first storm. That was my introduction to the hinterland.
So at least it was a gradual progression from there.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, Leon. Just to sidebar that quickly, when you have issues like that are, at least in my opinion, basic human comfort issues. Like I think it's reasonable to say I need help with this. Especially if you're being posted in an area like that. How is and you don't have to. I'm not asking you to be critical or derogatory or anything like that. But how is the system that allows for those basic comforts to be met efficiently? I'm sure it's different everywhere because you probably have to report it to a regional officer or something like that. But are those things? Those are basic commodities, right? How are those rectified? Did you ever sort of improve the furniture situation just to meet your needs?
Yeah, years after I did. The thing is, there's a system that we would normally follow if we have any complaints. We report to our supervisor, which is probably the HM, and the HM reports to the district education officer, and they report to the regional education officer, and they report to the region, and they see how they can fix the problem.
So it's a huge bureaucracy chain then.
Yeah. So yeah, we did, and eventually we got tired of asking, tired of writing letters and so on. This was around 2016 and so on, 2017. Yes, we got tired of asking and nobody was listening. So we just decided to spend our own money and make ourselves comfortable. And yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'm sorry you had that initial experience, but it seems like you did make some good relationships there.
Yep.
What were the people like to you, and how were they with someone who was coming from like town?
The thing is, many persons are thankful for the human resources coming from an outside region, while there are some persons who would say they don't want outsiders to come here. We want our own people to educate our own people. So that was something. But the thing is, it was about four of us. Two of us stayed for a very long time. Myself and another teacher who was supposed to be here, but sadly, yeah. So we chose to ignore all of the noise, as you would say, and just focus on what we were there for, which was to educate the students. Give them an opportunity, because that is something that they lack. If the thing is, it's a chain. Nobody's there to give them an opportunity. Nobody's there to educate them. So they don't have the opportunity to progress, and because they don't have the opportunity, they cannot provide the opportunity to somebody else probably. Yeah, so that was one of my or that was one of our main goals there. We wanted to make sure that when we leave there, at least we leave some persons, like we create teachers with within the students and allow them to continue what we started. We pinpoint some persons who are very strong, drilling them that, hey, Ram, when we leave here, you will be a teacher. And you will pass on everything that, we instill in you. And yeah. But the challenge is it's sometimes it becomes overwhelming, and you would say, you're going to take transfer by, because being able with the talking, from the time you give a suggestion, person would say, you're not from here, so they won't listen to you.
Really?
Yeah, but gradually, the thing is, as the longer you stay, people tend to trust you more, and you kind of fall in the circle. So they fight back. It became less with the after about spending about 5 years there. You would say you become one of the persons from the region. Persons stop referring to you as you're from Tong, and they refer to you as from Port Kaituma. Sir from Port Kaituma, or Miss from Port Kaituma. But initially, it was a fight. It was a struggle. But gradually, we gained the trust, and
Yeah, that's an amazing journey. Looking back, I'm sure you're grateful for the experience now.
Definitely. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
Probably the blackout I would change, but
The mattress and the bed.
but I wouldn't change anything. I met some wonderful people up there. I even met a young lady who I will marry in a few months up there. So
Oh, congratulations.
yeah, so thank you. So that was I wouldn't change anything.
Is she a teacher as well?
Yeah, she's a teacher.
Okay. And what subject does she teach?
English.
English. Okay, wow, maths and English.
Yeah.
I like the combination. You have some very smart children in the future. Yeah, so why did you make the decision to come back to Georgetown? And then was it from there you started online teaching, or did you spend some time in our urban schools here? Because I'm assuming that experience would have been a bit different.
Yeah. The thing is, during the COVID-19 pandemic, while everybody had, the school was shut down. No, we had no way of interacting with the students, them preparing them for the exam.
Okay, so you were there while the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So the thing is, we have internet up there. So I decided that how can I reach these children? At that time, I didn't know about Zoom and so on. So I said, hey, I will start to go live on Facebook and allow the students to join in so that I can prepare them for the exam. And so that was how I actually started doing videos, math videos mainly. So another time I just had a Samsung phone, and I I had some books I set up a fancy thing and just projected the phone to the paper, and I printed lots of paper, printed the past papers, and I went live working them, and my students joined. But the thing is, because it was on Facebook, other students joined in. I didn't expect that. I just thought it would have been my student. Nobody's interested in that. But it gained lots of attention. I even went on news because of that newsroom. Somebody saw it from newsroom, and yeah, and from then, I went live every other day, and from since then, then is when I started to do videos, and from doing the videos, after the results came out, I saw lots of persons saying, they thanked me because I helped them to pass. I helped them to get a grade 2 or grade 1. And the thing is, I did not know these persons because I was just going live and teaching, and I was surprised. I said, "Here, I probably should make this into something." And then is when I started my online classes because I wanted to spread my wings and not only help the students from Port Kaituma, but everybody else who would like to join my classes. So that's how I actually started in the pandemic, doing Facebook live video teaching. And from since then, I decided to gradually add on subjects, and now we have CSEC scholars.
Yeah.
About 7 subjects.
7 subjects. What subjects do you offer?
Mathematics, English, physics, chemistry, biology, integrated science, and POA, principle of accounts.
Okay, so the more important ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. And so I guess you would have moved back to Georgetown, and then you continued building on CSEC Scholars, which is the online program, by the way, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Every year we look to improve somehow, probably by adding on more subjects or offering something different. But this year we added on classes for the junior students. We have mathematics and English for the junior students, and after this CSEC cycle, we probably will add on principle of business, and these are the subjects that persons would come to us requesting, but sadly we don't offer them as yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is something we look to improve every year.
Are you measuring? So obviously you're doing a great job where you're now offering people to sign up. They pay by the month.
Yeah.
So they pay a fee and they get classes by the month, or a certain number of classes per month.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing this full time now.
No.
Okay.
It's part-time still.
Part-time still.
Yeah.
Is that? And please stop me if I'm overstepping. I just want to sort of give an idea of the market and the economy behind teaching and how feasible it is.
Yeah.
Is that because it's not feasible to do full time, or is it just that you're also into other things?
Well, it is feasible, but I'm also into other things that I enjoy doing as well.
Okay, gotcha. When you were posted, and I just kind of want to talk about teachers and their sort of their position in our economy and stuff like that. When a teacher is just out of Cyril Potter College and posted to the hinterland region, what does their salary look like? Because I'm assuming, they have to, if you had to go and buy your own beds and furniture and stuff like that, just to get around all the bureaucracy of waiting for it to get done for you, I'm assuming it would be hard to live on a teacher salary, especially at that time.
At that time, when I was there, probably 2016 and so on, it wasn't. I honestly don't know how I did it, but right now, I would say the salary in the hinterland, well, for persons who are at my status, which is a trained graduate, each head of department, it's it's way better than then, but it's. But a teacher out of Cyril Potter College of Education going into the hinterland, they get allowances that help them with the cushion the price for things in there. So another it's a reasonable allowance.
So you're able to. What I'm essentially asking is, you're able to live a a comfortable enough life?
Yeah, mainly because most hinterlands you don't have to pay for current. You don't have to pay for current or water or any.
So no utilities and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Okay.
So the money that you're saving on that, you can probably spend on other things, and in addition, you get allowances and these things.
So how are you finding the situation for teachers now in town? Like, I know they've implemented a lot of incentives for teachers to get more qualified and then be able to earn more. Is that something that you and perhaps other teachers, and I'm sure everybody has different opinions on this, but is the general consensus within the group of our Guyanese teachers, are they happy with this, or do they think that just that maybe salaries should just be raised overall in general?
The thing is, when measuring salary change, the other day I was looking at my pay slip and comparing it to a certain time frame, and while salary was not there was no big increase in salary. When you add up all the money that was added, it was a very big increase. I could tell you, it moved from, I would say, about a 40,000 increase. That is for a senior teacher. So that was a very big increase. While that
40,000 per month increase.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, about 40,000, 35 to 40.
Okay.
Yeah, so while the percentage that you would see in the news, people would say, but the other incentives with the you get 10,000 for your degree and 20,000 for your masters and so on. All of those things add up to. But one great thing that the ministry did that many teachers are happy with, probably they don't even know because they came into the system and this was it, is that when attending University of Guyana, back in the days you had to wait a line, and depending on the grade of the school, you had to wait. Like for example, a grade A school, only 4 teachers from that school they were allowed to go to University of Guyana and pursue their studies. A grade B, you got 3 teachers. Grade C, you got 2 teachers. Grade D, 1 teacher only. So you had to wait a long line. Because a school probably has about 60 something teachers, 70 something. Some schools 50 something. So if 4 persons and you're at the bottom of the list, you have to wait until all your seniors go to UG, and then is when you would get an opportunity to go. But now they don't have to wait. There's no line because classes are online and you access class after. And many persons are happy with that. I was probably a victim of having to wait because I wanted to attend UG, and because you're young, you want to further studies. Then is when you decide that you talk to the head teacher that, Miss, I want to go to university. She will tell the staff, and then when you decide now, then is when persons who are in front of you who never had the thoughts of going to UG, then is when they decide that, because this person is young, they want to go. I want to go, Miss. So wait your turn. So that is a major something, because the more qualified you get, the more money you get, and you can get promoted and so on. So that is something that I would assume everybody's happy with, because I was happy because I almost had to stop UG, but because of whatever, I had the opportunity to continue. And many persons now, they don't have to wait. Some persons wait until they're 40 something, 30 something, then is when they would get the opportunity. Some persons even take transfer from Georgetown to the hinterland just so that they can be released to go to UG back then. But now, everybody is going. As long as you're dedicated, you can go. So that is a major something that I assume all teachers are happy with.
So there's no limitation on A, B, C, or D schools.
No, everybody can go as long as you're dedicated enough to study after classes.
Yeah.
You can go.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, and if you have you said you get an increase for your bachelor's and your master's, and I'm sure your PhD as well.
Yeah.
And this is free for teachers to do?
No.
Okay, so you pay.
Yeah.
Do you pay the same amount as like a normal student?
Yeah. Yeah. It depends on the course, but you have to pay same amount.
And how does the GOAL program work with teachers as well? Do you get any salary increases with GOAL certificates?
Yeah, that you get the same. I think the same, or probably but you get paid for the goal scholarships as well. All the qualifications that you gain on the goal, you get paid for it at the Ministry of Education. Yeah, and that the goal also. The masters doing, for example, a person who has their bachelor's degree. I always question this thing. Why don't more persons do their why don't more teachers do their masters? And when I started my masters, then is when I realized why most persons don't do the masters, because in Guyana, they say the price is hot. It's very expensive at University of Guyana, and I started the class and I only saw six persons in my class, and in my bachelor's I had like 50 something persons, and I just had six persons, because it's very expensive. And I know many teachers now in the goal doing their masters, many teachers, many persons from who had their bachelors many decades ago, now pursuing their masters from the goal scholarship, and they will be paid as well, just as when I complete I will get paid. They will, yeah, get the same treatment. But I'm not sure as to the bachelors, but I know there are many. Oh yeah, there are many programs that a person with their CPC qualifications can go and do as well. And then there's a postgraduate diploma and so on.
Well, it seems that like there's a lot of um, diverse opportunity for teachers to pursue. Like if they really wanted, you know, to increase their monthly salary and get that leg up within their field. I mean, before it felt like, they were a bit limited, and every year or every election cycle at least, you would have the union sort of fighting for increases. So I know there's been a lot of talk, especially recently with all the budget debates and stuff like that, about there being a lot more money for teachers. So I really hope that it does come through, and that because it seems exciting. It seems like we're in a space that we haven't been before, based on what you're telling me, and yeah, I'm sure it could only mean better for our students.
Yep. And the thing is, the more qualified you are, the better position you are in to deliver more quality lessons to your students. The more you learn, the more you'll be able to see the linkage between certain topics. I'm only speaking from a mathematics perspective, but the teacher that I was when I graduated CPC, I am a totally different teacher after I completed UG. I would say 1,000 times better. You know,
What did UG teach you that CPC did not?
well, first of all, I'm more confident in terms of my content delivery. I one important thing, that, and this may be a very small something, but I had a lecture by the name of Dr. Troy. He said one important thing, and these are the small things that change an entire classroom. One important thing that you want to do in your class as a teacher, especially maths, is that you want to set something that we call the psychological environment for learning. I know many times a teacher would walk in the class, all right, students today will be looking at bam, bam, bam. And you don't even know how the students, how they spend the night, if they're in a right mindset to learn anything. So the lecture emphasized that we must ensure that the environment is psychologically ready for learning. You walk in the class, you ask them how they're doing, if they had breakfast, you try to a little joke or something, just to get them lighten up, relax, and then is when more learning can actually take place versus a teacher walking in the class. Our students learn textbook, da, 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 da. That already puts up a blockage to learning. So, and these are the small things that that would separate a good teacher from, I would say, a great teacher. You learn a lot about psychology. You learn a lot about how students think as it. You learn this in CBC, but at university, more emphasis is placed. So you tend to deal with situations differently as a graduate teacher from the University of Guyana, providing that you learned what and just in the complete assignments,
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least having them at ease makes it easier for everybody. They're more open-minded, whereas there's not as much resistance.
And also as a CPC teacher, in terms of discipline, sometimes you're more as a teacher, you react to situations based on what you know. For example, as a teenage boy picking trouble in the class. As a young teacher, inexperienced teacher, your first instinct would be to put the students in the place, let them know, scold them. But psychology would tell you that that student is picking trouble because they're probably not engaged enough in the classroom. They probably something is wrong with the home. You know, so what I would do, what I would do now as a teacher, you pull the student in the car and talk to them nicely, and you would see change would come about versus just react to them. Hello, stop it. Hello, stop making noise. Or hello, stop. So you want to pull them in the car. You deal with situations differently as a teacher, more qualified.
Yeah. So, Leon, we spoke earlier about, kind of tongue in cheek about us Guyana having a math problem, and there's this sort of, we see it a lot in society, especially with the social commentary and stuff like that. And I'm sure, there are similar gaps in other subjects as well. I could only imagine. But where do you think we're sort of lacking or in our educational system, and maybe, or is it even our educational system? How come, why aren't the majority of students, I guess, competitive on a regional level, let's say? And I don't want to put too much pressure on that. I just mean, how can we take our students to the next level? Is that something that can be done directly through the educational system, or is that more a thing of, them having structure in their own personal lives at home and that kind of thing?
The thing is, the math problem is not only in Guyana. It's probably a worldwide something, with the exception of a few countries. But as it relates to mathematics, if you ask a secondary school teacher, where is where is this problem coming from? Why is it that students are not passing the CSEC? They would immediately tell you that, oh, it's the primary school teachers. They're not teaching the students them correctly, and so when they come over with their problems, we gotta deal with that problem and then prepare them for the exam. Then if you go to the primary school and you ask them whose problem, why are the students not doing well in mathematics? The primary school teacher would then say, it's the nursery school. They are not preparing the students well for us. So when they come over, we got to teach them the nursery and so on. Then if you go to the nursery school teacher and ask them, why are the students not doing well in mathematics? They would say, it's the parents' fault. The parents not preparing them. And then, so to answer the question, I don't know where the problem is stemming from. As a secondary school teacher, I was one of them who blamed the primary school system, the primary school teachers. But I don't know. It has to do with the robust training that teachers would get as it relates to mathematics. Because if you enter the Sierra Porter College of Education with a math problem and you go with an issue with mathematics, not liking mathematics, and then when you go in the primary school system, you have to teach all the subjects. You're pushing that negativity to the children. So when the teacher is negative about mathematics, the students will be negative about mathematics. They will think that it's hard, and they will carry that straight through to secondary school, and probably until some persons become mature and decide that I'm going to have a mind of my own. But to me, the problem stems from the negative perception of math in the country, because of many, you keep hearing that math is hard, and you already got this blockage that this thing is hard and I can't learn it. And even one time I was in an assembly and I heard the HM of a school saying that, telling the students that, they gotta practice maths, and she said that she doesn't like maths and she failed maths, and and things like that cause students to build a wall to mathematics. And if you can just break down that wall somehow and change the perception of math in the country, I think we can see results improving and students having a more positive attitude towards the subject. But it probably has to start with the teacher and the parents, and probably the robust training.
Do you think that students are also underutilizing the resources that are readily available to them? Because the reason I say this is, we're in a digital age right now. We spend a lot of our time wasting time on Facebook and these social media platforms. But, anybody will tell you that you could go on YouTube and get a university education when you spend enough time on there learning about something, and in a indebatably a more practical way. Before you came along with CSEC Scholars Online, there was Khan Academy. There were other, programs that sort of paved the way, and they're still there. Every time I want to learn something in my craft, the first thing I go to is YouTube. How to do it. I want to learn how to fix something in my house is YouTube. And I feel like maybe it's such it's so underutilized for young people because they would rather not, or it's not really the first thing that comes to mind. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, I know it's a tricky one. Obviously, by the way, nothing will ever really beat in-person teaching, but there is a lot to be gained.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you as it relates to not only students, but teachers and everybody in general not utilizing the resources that are available, especially YouTube. When I was preparing for my exam, CSEC, I did not have YouTube. I mean, internet was a thing, but it was not something for me. And probably if I had that, but yeah, students are generally not utilizing the resources available. For what reason? I probably interests. The more mature they become, the more they take the work serious. But yeah, that is an issue. But the thing is, some persons may argue that the teachers they have to generate that interest in the students to want to go and search up these things and be more proactive for their learning. Because as a teenager, psychology would say you're not yourself. You're now discovering who you are. So you want to explore lots of things, and probably learning is not on the list as yet. So people may say that the teachers they have to guide students into becoming more proactive in their learning. And some person may say it's the parents, and then some person may blame the teacher, the students, saying that it's their education, they have to take up the mantle and go after it. But yeah, I do agree. I do agree. Students are not utilizing because I as a student at the Siripata College of Education, Khan Academy, that was my best friend. I it was only the other day I realized I saw who the person behind the voice was. But and that was one that Khan Academy is actually what an inspiration that I take, in when I create my math videos, because I kind of use the same pattern in terms of writing and just
Yeah.
open a blank screen and write.
It's very organized. Your own.
Yeah. So that is something that I actually want to be. And the thing is, Khan Academy, it moved from being just a YouTube something to having his own learning platform in which you can go on and just learn anything. You can even have preparation, test preparation, and so on. As you look at the video, you answer some questions. So it's an abundance of resources out there, and indeed, I do agree that students are not utilizing the resources. But some people may say, what about the students who don't have access to the internet? I mean, we live in a digital age, but the students in the hinterland. The other day I was in a place called, can't remember the name of the place, but they have no signal. And I asked them, how do you communicate? How if you want to send a message, because there's no signal in the village. And the people are civilized, you know everything that is happening. So I was curious and I asked them, how do you communicate if I want to get a message from somebody who's living a good while away? Do I have to travel and go till to the person home? And then if they're not home, what do you do? And surprisingly, they said that they communicate using walkie-talkie radio. They send a message and person will answer back. Of course, they can't send anything private because it's open to everybody. And, so that is something interesting. So what about those persons, they don't have access, so there's nothing for them to not utilize. But, yeah, I do agree with the point. The people who have access, they're not utilizing as much as they should.
Do you think that, well, there's a lot of talk about providing internet access to hinterland communities. I know I'm not sure how long it started, and I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I do know the last government did a had an initiative where they would provide internet to a lot of these villages and the schools, and it's sort of like an education hub. And I'm assuming that the current government is still doing that. But do you think that the more connection we get to these hinterland communities, that would make learning easier? Because I mean, internet, having the access is one thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean it'll promote learning. I mean, information sharing for sure, but learning, I'm not so sure. What are your thoughts on that, having spent some time in the hinterland yourself?
Yeah, I do believe that, if they have access to the resources, I do believe there would be a change to a certain extent, because while there are persons who are desperately willing and want to learn and they grab at any opportunity that they get, but the thing is they don't get the opportunity. They don't get the opportunity because it's not available to them, and if they have access to it, I'm sure that there are many persons who will utilize it because it's something that they don't have, and but then there are some persons who, as you said, it's information sharing, but they would it wouldn't be like anything to them, but it would bring about a change. At least they would have a chance.
Yeah, better than nothing.
Yeah, better than nothing. They will have a chance, while versus not having no chance at all, other than just the teacher come teach, and that is it. When the textbook, yeah. So I do believe.
You spoke about a lot about the buck being passed in terms of responsibility for, like, for just using the example of the nursery teacher blaming the parents, primary school teacher blaming the nursery teacher, secondary blaming primary, and then how do you and also talk about the importance of the psychology in the classroom, and having that approach to get students in the frame of mind. And I think a lot of that comes with relationship building and a sort of you have to be in a way a people person, and this is something we severely struggle with in Guyana, like our service industry, our public sector. And no offense, I'm not talking about teachers. I've met some wonderful teachers, but do you think that teachers, for example, though, are putting that as a priority right now? Because a teacher could be super qualified, have their PhD, be a brilliant academic, but if they can't connect with people, then their skills are essentially, their value, is essentially cut in half. So what is your outlook on teachers today and the importance they place on that in classroom, like relationship and psychology, and sort of how that can maybe, what is the state of that, and how can that be improved, if it even needs to be?
Yeah, the thing is, as a teacher, students tend to listen to you more if you have that connection with them. A teacher was telling me a scenario the other day. She said that she always wants the Bart class, as they would say, the Bart class in every school that she goes. She said, give me the Bart class to teach, and she said she would say that in a few weeks, in a few months, people would want to know if that is the same class that everybody was saying that they don't want to go and teach. But she would say she would build that relationship with the students, that teacher-student relationship, and they listen. Students listen when there is that connection. If some teachers may say that, the students, they're not doing their homework, they're not doing it. They give them work to do, they're not doing it. And then another teacher may say that, these students, they do everything that they tell them to do, and they're very active in class. And then that next teacher would say that, these students don't talk. You ask them questions, they're watching you. And so the relationship that you build with the students, that is important in the learning process. And you must build that relationship. You must, or else, as you said, all the qualifications, all the knowledge, it would be useless. Because it's just like, you're just like a textbook. If you have all the knowledge and you don't know how to get it across and form that relationship with the students, you would be just like a textbook. So I don't think teachers want to be and this is something that they would teach you. You must form that connection. As a parent, they say teacher is their second parent, as a parent with a child, you have to form this relationship with the child so that, if they're in trouble, you would be the first person that they want to call you, and you wouldn't be it wouldn't be that they want to hide because they were afraid of you. And as a teacher, you want to build that teacher-student relationship just so that, it can facilitate the learning process. And that is, I view that as being very important. And I think now, to me now, based on anecdotal evidence, I would say that many young teachers, I mean, they would try to build that relationship, but at the end of the day, there must be a boundary. Like, at the end of the day, you're the teacher and they're the student, but you want to have that relationship. And many persons find that boundary difficult to, to outline. So,
Coming from like a respect point of view.
yeah, respect, and because although you want to be that person that they go to, you still want that respect that if you tell them something, they would listen to you. I mean, of course, they have to use common sense and so on, but you still want that respect. And many young teachers, they don't know how to form that boundary, and that can cause lots of problem in the classroom. Your words will have no weight. You tell a student something, it's relax yourself, or sorry, relax yourself. So while you want to form that relationship, you still want to maintain that boundary, to make teaching effective.
Yeah. In the public sector, education system, so public school teachers, what is the sort of approach with regards to the teacher's relationship with parents? So consulting on the child and stuff like that. Is that something that is given any emphasis, or is that something that is shied away from? And then on that note, what are the parents? What is their involvement in actually reaching out to teachers?
In in the education system in Ghana, we have a day that we call Report Card Day. That's like the last Thursday on every school, in which every parent, they must go and collect their report, the end of term report from their teacher, and not only collect it, discuss how they can move forward in improving the performance of the students, of their children, and so on. They go to each subject teacher and find out what they can do as a parent. And also, many schools practice having parents come in and check on with their teachers and so on. So it's open. We believe that, the parents, they have to play their role. But the thing is, there's a joke persons would say, PTA, at the PTA, you would see, when you call PTA meeting, parent teacher meeting, you would see roughly about 20 persons. And then when it's time for the cash grant, you would see 50,000 people. That's a number. So the thing is, I believe many parents are not playing their role in terms of, I mean, they send the children to school, they give them money, they buy all the books and everything, but still, the children need to see the parents showing that interest in their education. And even today, I came across something on social media with a parent complaining about a fee that the school is asking. And by school, I mean the parents and the teacher, the PTA is asking. The parent is saying that, it's too much. Why the school need money and what's not. But the thing is, if at the bottom of the document there was a stamp, and the stamp is the PTA stamp. And the thing is, the only way that this could have been sent from the school is if that at the PTA meeting everybody agreed that this is something that we want. We want to raise money for whatever reason, and the PTA has that power. They can raise money, right? So, and then the parent came to social media complaining that this is too much money. But what could have solved that is if and that indication alone, that showed me that parent did not attend that meeting, so that they couldn't voice their concern here because they probably weren't in the meeting, and then they came to social media after to complain about something that they're not a part of, although they should have been. So that kind of shows where many parents are as relates to the teacher-student relationship, the relationship with their school and the teachers. But it's something that schools practice. They encourage. They want teachers to come in and check out. But the thing is, many schools, they would invite teachers to come in and talk about probably a behavior that they want to discontinue with the child. And the school would call many times. They would call, send message with with the student. The teacher would call, ask the parent to come in, but they would always say they're too busy and what's not. And then versus the child who is doing excellent, you don't have any issue with them. The parents always coming in and checking every month or so. So the people who should be the ones coming into school very often, you don't find them. And the people who there's no need, the child is doing. But probably people may say that the reason why the child is doing so well is because the parent is checking up on them and what's not. So yeah, that is something the education system encourages the parents coming in and checking. And
Yeah, no, it's super important. I was always curious as to what the general, and I know it changes over time. Much like parents of a certain generation or batch of kids get involved, and obviously, regardless, it's very important for them to be involved and be guiding the children as well. Because if they're not, then they're gonna offset all the work the teachers is doing because the child will have no structure at home.
yeah.
And not to, I don't know if you have any comment on this, and just something I thought I would ask because I know it's kind of a issue that rears its ugly head every now and again, especially on social media. We see a lot of physical confrontation, not a lot, but enough where it's like this at times can be a problem. Whether it's violence between the children themselves, or the parents coming in and fighting with the teachers, or the teachers and the students. I'm curious as to what sort of catalyzes those kinds of conflicts, because it seems like emotions run very high and people just sort of give in to their impulses, and then obviously it's very embarrassing for the children who have to sort of deal with the fallout of all of that. I'm not sure if you have any comment on that. And no pressure if you
No,
don't.
no.
If you don't, that's totally fine. I just wanted a teacher's perspective.
No, as it relates to the violence in schools, whether it be student, on student, teacher on students, parent on teacher. The other day I was looking at the parliament and I heard somebody said that, there's more violence in schools now than before. And then the minister replied and said that, there's no increase in violence. It's just that there's an increase of persons having phones to video what is going on. And I believe that when I was in school, many fights, but you never found it on social media because probably the phone that we had did not have cameras and so on. But for me, as relates to violence, I in Guyana we don't take mental health and so on seriously. So probably I know many persons right now they're studying, they're pursuing a tertiary education as relates to psychology and so on. So probably with the resource persons, we can now tackle the root cause of violence, which would be probably some mental health issue. Uh, Persons having issues at home and they take it out on students, bullies, bullies having problems at home and they come to school, they take it out on other students weaker than them. But as it relates to violence with teacher and student, for me personally, I believe that I don't believe in corporal punishment. I've never
It's a bit dated now.
I've never liked it. I don't see the reason why persons like the other day my brother who is a teacher as well, he was talking to a parent and the parent was finding out. I actually, and this is one thing I like about that school, Tushin Primary. The parents they are very involved, and I would hear him talking to many parents. They would call, like they had mock exam the other day, grade 6, and the parent called and said, "Sir, what can I do to help this child improve?" The child did well, but my brother was saying that she can do better. And the parents asked him, "What can she do?" My brother said, "Well, the first thing you can probably do is ease up on the beating, because when the child is in the exam, the child is probably shaking because they're second guessing themselves that if a circle is on it wrong, you can get licks. Because the mother might say, every one that you get wrong, you get a lash or something." This that. And the child second guesses herself, and they're afraid in the exam, and that is what to me that is what beating does. It doesn't fix the solution, fix the problem. well, permanently, it's just a temporary fix to stop something from it, like a punishment. So I don't believe in it. I don't believe in beating children to learn. I don't believe in beating children when they do certain things. Probably, as a human being, you become angry if, well, as a teacher, you would become angry. Let's say, for example, you're walking on, as a teacher, you're walking on the corridor and a child decides that, hey, I will pelt sore with something. If this student decide to throw something, you become angry and want to carry them to the head teacher's office and drop some bench in them, or as you would say back then. But to me, I don't. I think there are better ways in dealing with every problem without having to beat a child and so on. It's dated, as you said.
Yeah.
It's like, there are many ways. There are many. What do you call it? There are many resources you can go to how to deal with any problem. And then if nothing works, you can always try to get the child out of the school, because that is always an option.
Yeah, at least that's a form of punishment that they would have to feel.
Yeah.
However, obviously don't want them spending too much time out of school. But, you briefly mentioned, and just in closing, I have just a few more questions. You mentioned our mental health problem, and, a lot of it, unfortunately, is exacerbated by lack of resources. Do you think it would be beneficial to children, especially if there was maybe a counselor assigned to every school, where so that's is just a resource that students would have if they're having problems at home, or maybe even if they don't necessarily want to address it directly or talk to someone, but they could be sent to spend some time with the counselor to properly manage their emotions and express themselves. Do you think that is something the government can look into if we're really serious about taking on this mental health issue?
But the thing is, I kind of laugh when you said that a counselor to each school. The reason why I not laugh, the reason I kind of smile is because actually I think there is something like that where there's a counselor probably attached to a few schools, and if a child is having issues, send the child to the counselor. But there is a scenario, but in Guyana, we probably need to do some sort of professional development with everybody. Because in Guyana, in a school, I heard that the children were talking. They said that they went to the counselor and they talked to the counselor about something that was happening. And then within the hour, the entire staff room in the school, the entire staff knew about the child's issue. And, I don't know. And many students also, they view the counseling as just going and gaff with the person, and nothing will come of it. Probably, I don't know if it's lack of professional training or what's not. But yeah, but the thing is, we need the human resources. I mean, there is something like that, but I don't know how helpful it is because of how professionally trained these individuals are.
Yeah, well, that's something you have to really take quite seriously.
Yeah.
That's yeah, and just to your experience there with whoever, I think it's definitely maybe wrong of the counselor to go and tell the whole staff room. I don't know in what way they expressed that. I hope it wasn't in a toxic way or a poor way of communication. But at the same time, even a counselor has to be supported by a strong system, because I don't think it would, even in a school, even if a counselor was dedicated to each school, so each school had their own full-time counselor, the system would still have to be able to incorporate that counselor in to allow him or her to do their job. And the teachers would have to buy into that system as well. They can't be, I'm just making this up, but laughing at the story they heard, you know what I mean? But, I didn't realize that they were actually kind of doing stuff like that. So at least that's a start. Maybe what we need is like a Cyril Potter college for counselors. Leon, one of my last two questions is we mentioned the cash grant. I think it's called the Because We Care cash grant. And this is an amount that's given to parents. Is it given per student or per family?
Per student.
Per student. And it was raised from 35 to 40 or 40 to 45.
I think this year it'd be from 40 to 45.
Okay.
Not 100%, but I think so.
And the idea behind this grant is so that parents have financial support in making sure their children are going to school with proper uniforms. They can offset some of the costs of textbooks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the government has started this over the last couple of years. Since its inception, has there been a noticeable or notable improvement in the resources that children are coming to school with, or is it more of the same, or is it too early to tell?
But I can tell you, there has been a great improvement as it relates to attendance.
Okay.
I know they right now, the school that I came from, we had,
Attendance by students?
yeah, students.
Okay.
We had a serious furniture issue, and this stemmed from the cash grant because the students, they want to come to school because they want that 40,000 at the end of the term.
You don't get it if you don't have good attendance?
Well, if you make zero attendance, you will not get it.
Okay.
But of course, they don't want, as Guyanese would say, they don't want to look bad. So they would send the child to school just so that they can. And I view that as something good, because at the end of the day, when they come, they actually, they learn something. The more they are in school, the more present they are in school, the more they can learn. And but as it relates to in terms of resources, yeah, they personally, as a teacher, when I was in the classroom, I went to a class, a fifth form class, and normally when I go to them and ask them, anybody, let me see all of those who have their calculators, raise their hand, and probably two persons would raise three persons. And as a school, you would have to, find some way to ask for donations so that we can get some calculators. But lately when I went there, I asked, let me see those of you who work with it, and every single body raised their hand, said that they have calculators and graph book. And I would think that stemmed from the cash grant, because that was the only change. So yeah, it helps a lot. Of course, you would find one and two parents not utilizing it in the way that they should, because while an entire class had resources because of it, it was also in Port Kaituma. If you ever went to Port Kaituma, there's this place that you call the Crack in Port Kaituma, where people would go and lime and so on. You would see the envelope through there, and you would see many parents enjoying themselves, and the child is without the resources. So yeah, it improved many students, but of course you would have the one and two exceptions.
Sure, for sure. There are definitely some that would slip through the cracks, I'm sure. Lastly, Leon, it seems like a good time for teachers in general, with these opportunities coming up with the new budget pass and stuff like that. I just kind of want to ask you, to close off, what is your hope for teachers over the next 10 years? And also, where do you plan to go from here? What is your ultimate goal in terms of your involvement in the educational sector?
Well, for me, my dream for teachers would be, firstly, a reduction. I mean, the Ministry of Education has already started the process of reducing lots of the records, because that takes away from the some of the important things that a teacher should be doing. So my dream for teachers would be, they do the main thing, which is to teach, and not the many redundant records. I mean, the process already started as relates to
Records like what? Sorry.
school records. Sometimes teachers would complain that they are more secretary than teachers. They have to mark registers, they have to balance the registers, they have to report lots of records. In a school, a school has typically should have about 100 and something records every day, and probably about if 30 something a normal teacher would have to do. So I would like to see a great reduction of that. But as I said, that already started. There's a system that called EMIS that would take away lots of records, lots of redundant records. And of course, teachers being compensated a bit more for the efforts that they put in, so that, a teacher coming out of Sierra Potter College of Education a male teacher should be able to support their family without having to do anything else. Now for me personally, I see myself, depending on where I am in probably the next few years or few months, probably contributing a lot to the education system in Guyana, using my abilities, which is mathematics and many other things. But it depends on where I am. It depends on what I am doing. Yeah, that is where I don't know if I'll stay in the system, but I plan to. But of course, that has to, it depends. And my CSEC scholars online, I intend to every year improve the quality of that and probably be one of the biggest lessons or online lessons in, I won't say Guyana, in the Caribbean. Some may say I'm already the biggest lesson in Guyana. Just joking. But yeah, that is something that is something I intend to take very seriously, improve that, the quality of that, and probably have like a building set up so that teachers can come with all the resources available so that the teachers who I employ, they can come there, or they can even take it home if they have good internet access and do their classes. And those who, especially maths and these are the subjects that they need the writing tools, they can come to this location and conduct the classes. That is something that I plan to do. Yeah, so that's where I see my future. I'm probably staying in the education, the ministry, and doing more things, improving, seeing how I can contribute to the development of mathematics and moving this pass rate from where it is right now to something respectable. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. Well, Leon, you're doing great work. I think people like you is what's going to revolutionize our educational system. I'm so grateful for you coming and sharing all your experiences. This was such a rich conversation, and especially to share it with my audience who want to understand these issues and get to have the experiences or get to know the experiences that teachers are going through. So I really appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but the best and can't wait to see you in 10 years when you have, revolutionized our educational system and taken maths to a whole new level. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for the invite. This was a very healthy conversation. I enjoyed it very much.
All the best.
And I wish you the best in your podcast as well.
Thank you.